Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We are going to discuss our virtual academy this evening, so we appreciate you coming in for our parent informational evening. We'll jump in and get started on this. This evening will also be recorded, and we'll post the recording tomorrow on our website for anybody who was not able to attend. So just really quickly before we jump into the presentation, I wanted to cover the format and introduce who's here with us. So my name's Aida Glemi, and I'm the Associate Superintendent of Educational Services. We have Dr. Nickerson, our Superintendent, present. We have Abhi Brar, our Director of Curriculum and Instructional Innovation. Something like that. Sorry, Abhi. And we have John Drury, our coordinator of Kalani Center for Independent Study. So while I will go through the presentation, what we have this evening available is the question and answer format for the webinar. And you are able to submit questions throughout the presentation. What I would encourage you is if you can just give me a moment at the start of the presentation, I will let you know what I'll cover throughout the presentation. I'll go through it in probably about 20 minutes or so, and you'll hear some of the information that maybe you are seeking to find this evening. And then we'll provide you with some time where you'll be able to type in the questions that we will be able to address live. Or if there are more individual questions, we'll be able to just respond to you in your Q&A chat room. Mr. Brar, Mr. Drury, and Dr. Nickerson will be able to, they will be facilitating that Q&A while I talk throughout the presentation. And then if there are questions that should be addressed live for all to hear, they'll be able to stop me at some points and say, hey, why don't we address this for everybody? So that's sort of the format of the evening. And hopefully that works. And also at the end of the presentation, I've been collecting some questions over the last few days through our FAQ form and just checked. So anything that has been submitted up until about 10 minutes ago, I was able to put into our presentation if it hasn't been already addressed in there. So at the very end of the presentation, I'll go through some of those questions as well. Like I said, if you can just hold on for, if you have some questions, we may actually cover them in presentation for you. So with that said, I will go ahead and start sharing my screen and go through the information about this brand new program, which is our Kalani's Virtual Academy. So we'll share my screen and go through that. So Abhi, if you can wave at me, do you see the screen? Okay, thank you very much. So with that, just to give you an update or an overview of what the purpose of this meeting is, we really wanted to make sure and share the information about what AUHSD Virtual Academy is, and to make sure that you have time to ask some questions of us and for us to be able to answer some frequently asked questions regarding the Virtual Academy. And if you don't get your questions answered this evening, between now and April 30th, please email me or submit your questions throughout the form, and we'll be able to respond to those questions. We want to make sure as you make this decision that you're making an informed decision and we're able to answer your questions for you. So just so that you know the agenda for the evening, I'll cover the purpose of the Virtual Academy and why we're starting it. We'll overview some, I'm doing dual screens, I apologize. I will cover some key aspects of the Virtual Academy, like the enrollment and how our students enroll and who is the student that should attend the Virtual Academy, what the program looks like, what are the courses being offered, and how will those get finalized, what is the daily schedule for our students, and then what does the student social support look like, or academic support. And then, as I mentioned already, I'll review a few of the frequently asked questions that we've already been receiving. So that's the agenda for the presentation, just so that you have an outlook of what it looks like. So I will jump right into it. Why did the district decide to create this district-wide AUHSD Virtual Academy. So due to this ongoing pandemic, and we recognize that some students may not be able to return to in-person schedule in the fall. We plan on opening all of our comprehensive school sites and our independent school site for in-person schedule. For our comprehensive school sites, that means 5 days a week of in-person traditional schedule that we're used to pre-pandemic. And for our independent study, it's in-person schedule that is their independent study in-person schedule. So we recognize that as the pandemic continues, that some of our students may not be able to return to that schedule. So we wanted to offer an option for them for that virtual or full remote option. So this proposed virtual academy will allow some of those students to continue learning in a remote setting for the entire school year of 21-22. But in order for us to allow our school sites to focus on that return to full in-person learning and to consolidate our program offering, we needed to streamline our virtual academy and offer it as one district-wide program. We're actually not able to support virtual academies at every single school site across the district. So we're able to centralize our services, centralize the program, and offer it as one district-wide program running out of Delphi Education. Our virtual academy would be offered at this time. We're hoping for 21-22 school year only because we're anticipating hopefully that we'll have the end of the pandemic by then, but it's really for the duration of the pandemic that we're hoping for it. Virtual Academy students. So who are the students that are looking to enroll into the Virtual Academy? It's open to our students, so the current Acalanes or incoming Acalanes students only. So our students that are graduating this year, clearly they're moving on. So it's really current 8th graders or next year's 9th graders through 12th grade. And what we're targeting is students with unique medical circumstances that are prevented from attending in-person instruction, or students who have household members with unique medical circumstances that are unable to have students attend in-person instruction, or students who attend in-person activities or in-person instruction puts those household members or students themselves at risk. So it's a pretty narrow focus for the students because the entire program is fully remote. We have gotten some questions with regards to if the Virtual Academy will offer support and allow special education students. So those are students that have an IEP, and we have students who have an IEP may attend Virtual Academy, absolutely. However, by law, they have to have an approval of their entire IEP team. So prior to student enrolling into a Virtual Academy, while you would at this time request transfer to Virtual Academy, there would be an IEP meeting that would be held to ensure that that setting would meet those students' unique needs. And we want to make sure that those students are successful so that we set them up for success in that remote setting. And if that student is placed at Virtual Academy, all of those special education services that come and are listed on the IEP would then be delivered remotely. How does the student enrollment work? Our students actually separately enroll into a Virtual Academy for the 21-22 school year. So they actually leave their current school and they transfer or request that intra-district transfer to go to the Virtual Academy. So it's a separate school entity. So currently right now, families interested in attending the Virtual Academy would complete a transfer form, which is on our website and has been emailed out to the families. You request that transfer, and we're asking that that transfer is requested by April 30th. We know that that deadline seems really soon, and some families have said that many things have changed can change over the summer and circumstances can change over the summer. Unfortunately, we have to plan for staffing for Virtual Academy, as well as for any possible impact on our AUHSD school sites. So we need to know how many teachers we need at the Virtual Academy, what courses we're offering, what kind of courses, what credentials must be there. And all of that needs to happen before our teachers are gone for the summer, or before we can't actually staff because we can't hire people. We also need to understand what are the effects at our comprehensive school sites should the numbers be large. So the deadline is actually offered by April 30th. Concurrent enrollment, and if you're not familiar with that term, for example, our independent study students can be concurrently enrolled at ACIS and one of our comprehensive. So I could be a student at Acalanes High School that's taking 3 classes at ACIS and 4 electives at Acalanes. That's a concurrent enrollment. Because our comprehensive schools are in person and Virtual Academy is designed for a full remote experience, concurrent enrollment wouldn't quite make sense. So concurrent enrollment is not available because all of our other sites are in person. We have gotten questions about 12th graders being enrolled and where do they graduate from and what school does it say that they're graduating from. So this is one particular group. So if you are a 12th grader, meaning next year's 12th grader, right? So current junior, you would be taking classes at Virtual Academy, but your transcript at the end would say whatever your home school is. So I'm a Campo Lindo student right now. I go to a Virtual Academy next year, my transcript would say that I've taken classes at the Virtual Academy, but I'm getting a Campo Lindo diploma. And I actually would be able to graduate at Campo Lindo High School if I'm able to do so due to my medical condition. A couple other things about enrollment. So that was a little bit of how do I get enrolled into a Virtual Academy, but how do I withdraw from Virtual Academy? Meaning there's a couple of different aspects of moving away from Virtual Academy or going back to your home school. Part one is a little like very quick initial change. So, and I'll talk about courses and program offerings, but April 30th, as I mentioned, is that deadline to say, this is our deadline to enroll in or request a transfer into Virtual Academy. And that will really tell us, us staff, how many students are we talking about? Because there's a really big difference if I have 30 students who are requesting Virtual Academy versus 300 students requesting Virtual Academy. What kind of courses I can offer, what kind of program I can design, what are the offerings, or maybe if they're all 9th graders versus all 11th graders. It just depends then what I can finalize as full course offerings for our students. So once we know those numbers on April 30th, we will over the next couple of days then quickly get down and see what did those students request and what can we reasonably design for them and realistically design for them as course offerings in the Virtual Academy. We will then notify each family and say, this is our final program. Here's the actual details of the Virtual Academy based on the enrollment numbers. And because it's so new and we don't know what those numbers are, we want to offer the opportunity to the parents to say, I really don't want to be part of that, and give them 7 days to actually rescind that transfer application and stay at their home school, or say, yep, that works for me. I will stay, I will go ahead and go into that program. One tricky thing here is if you can't go back to the comprehensive site and this really doesn't work, then we can also talk about, is independent study or ACIS, does that program work better? So we would really work with you on an individual basis of what are some options within the district. Returning to the homeschool once you're enrolled in the Virtual Academy, really looking at the next school year is, first of all, making sure after this year, meaning for 22-23, which just seems so far from now, but for 22-23, our students are guaranteed space at their home school. And by home school, because I've received some clarification questions, is it like the original residence school or homeschool? What if I've transferred already? So for example, if I was originally an Akalani student, but then I transferred to Campo Lindo, so that is my new homeschool. That's what we're talking about, your homeschool. Whatever your comprehensive school site is that is your homeschool, that's what we're talking about. That's where we would go back. So space is guaranteed there for you for 22-23 year. That's not an issue. And then students who really wish to return to in-person instruction because their circumstances have changed at home, or virtual academy is truly just not working for them, will be given to opportunity to do so at the semester. We know that's a really long commitment. It's shorter than a year, but it's a long commitment. However, it's really disruptive to students and to our staff to move programs throughout the year. If there are really particular circumstances, we could look at them if there's space permitting in the semester, but we're focused on for sure at the semester, and then we'll examine case-by-case basis otherwise. I'm sorry, I didn't forward the slide. I apologize for that. So I just covered this information, that initial changes in enrollment, there'll be a week, and then space guaranteed. Okay, I just wanted to ask my the other panelists if there's questions about enrollment that need to be addressed live before I move to the schedule. We're okay. All right. So let me go through the schedule. So what we're looking at is that the virtual academy schedule will be very much aligned to the comprehensive high school schedule. And the comprehensive high schools are reverting back to our traditional schedule that was utilized pre-pandemic. So what we used to have pre-pandemic, and for those of you that are incoming ninth graders, I know you don't know that, but we had an anchor day where students would go on Monday, 7 class periods, and then they had a block day for the next 4 days, and 90-minute periods and so on. So we'd really align our virtual academy schedule because our goal is to utilize some of our teachers from the comprehensive school sites to teach our classes. So we need to have our classes aligned. However, this would all be in a virtual world. So it would be done over Zoom, just similar to what we did during distance learning in the fall and winter of this last year. Our students will meet with their teachers daily, and daily virtual attendance would be required. So our students would attend on Zoom, start each period with their teacher, and go through classes every single day, just like our in-person students. And that daily instruction will include both, live Zoom classes and some asynchronous independent learning time. Just like in person, teachers are doing direct instruction and then they have independent time, which happens to be in the classroom. That's how the distance learning would work. It's just that then you're releasing your students to do some asynchronous independent time. So it's a mixture of the both. We will use Zoom, as I mentioned, to do the live instruction, and then Canvas will continuously be used as our learning management system and we'll use that in our in-person as well. With regards to our academic programming, what we definitely are committed to is making sure that our students who are attending Virtual Academy are not falling behind on graduation requirements or A through G requirements. I apologize for the typo. A through G requirements for college admissions. So all courses required for graduation and A through G requirements will be offered. Our students will earn letter grades on their transcripts. So it's letter grades, it's not a credit, no credit system. And then we'll offer a selection of electives that will be determined based on the number of students applying. So it's really hard to determine how many electives or what kind if we don't know who are the students, how many, and which grade levels who are actually moving into the Virtual Academy. So once we have that number by April 30th, we can actually be a little more defined when we give you that information on, hey, these are the electives that we're offering. Here's how many, or how narrow is the scope. All of the courses are reflected on our AUHSD transcript. They are designated as taken in the virtual setting because that's how we have to report it, and they're designated as taken in the virtual academy. But they are following our AUHSD curriculum. To accommodate for some of the electives and to be able to offer a little more of them, we may actually use our Fuel Education, which is our online partner, to supplement our in-house offering of distance learning. But it's our teachers that would be modifying their curriculum to make sure that it's still aligned, and our students can then either transfer back or continue whatever their course of study is when they do go back to our regular school year. Okay, and then moving to sort of the social emotional support and student support. The thing to keep in mind is the virtual academy is fully virtual, and it is truly for students that are in a remote setting. So students are enrolled in the virtual academy for that 1 year, 21-22, and all academic and social emotional programming will be virtual. So we want to make sure and assist our students in making peer connections and provide them with wellness support. So we will examine the ability to provide some virtual resources such as counseling and wellness and virtual student groups. But all of that will be in a virtual setting, and depending the amount of counseling or wellness or what we can do is truly dependent on how many students are enrolled. We will be examining that. I know there were some questions coming in about, will my students will they be able to access Naviance? Will they have a counselor? Will they be able to access wellness? And we do want to offer that. Absolutely, they are our students, but it will all be through a virtual setting. On the side note, though, due to the virtual nature of that academy, they're not able to participate like in after-school sports or extracurricular clubs at their home school, as those are all in person, of course. So I'll just shift then to some of the questions that I've gotten, because that really covers some of the overview things. The only questions I've gotten about the in-person learning is, what are some safety guidelines that will be followed in the comprehensive schools during the in-person? And I'm assuming you want to know that because you need to make a decision. And some of these things, our California Department of Public Health guidelines continue to change. So we assume there will be some changes between now and the start of the school year. However, what we are anticipating is that there will be some distancing, and we are planning our classrooms and our scheduling in our schools right now on current distancing protocols of 3 feet. So not the 6 feet, but the 3 feet. So we are planning on a 3 feet distancing, and should that go away, it will give us a little bit of more wiggle room in our classrooms, and so on. We are examining our schedule to see if we need to provide a staggered or more distance space during lunch times when our students are in a little bit more of a social interaction. So we are looking at that during our schedules and such. Masking we have been informed that at this time, it's looking like we will be requiring masks at all times on all campuses. So right now we are anticipating that will have a mask requirement. And then screening, right now, all of our students are screening using the Company Nurse app in the morning. And we are anticipating that we will go through more of a passive protocol where students are letting us know if they have symptoms, and then we'll see what the County Department of Public Health is telling us, or California Department of Public Health is letting us know what do we need to do with that information. So a lot more information is coming in and potential changes of what that looks like, but we will be implementing all safety guidelines that the state is letting us know with regards to safety and so on. And then there were questions about the virtual academy, which I think I've answered some of them, but I'll just go ahead and reinforce some that have been coming in a little more frequently, like, can the transfer request be rescinded or newly submitted over the summer? So really summertime transferring. And we do have that deadline of April 30th because we really need to do the planning. I think if there were some extenuating circumstances over the summer for a student to go into the virtual world, we would be able to probably accommodate it. However, going back into the in person, it would really be space permitted. So I think the planning needs to be happening very carefully because we want to make sure that there's space at the schools. So I think you have to be really certain of you want to be cautious of the decisions you're making, because I don't know that we will be able to allow a free flow of movement of students as we have been right now between our cohorts and so on, because we may be limited on space in our classrooms. So I would say is the deadline is on April 30th. We'll give another 7 days based on the program. And I truly would not be counting on summer movement, but it would be space permitting. Questions about independent study and the differences between our ACIS and the virtual academy. And our ACIS is a choice program. It's a wonderful program that we have. It's a jewel in our district that our students select to go to for a variety of reasons. And we will be doing a little more publicizing and more communications around what ACIS is in the coming weeks so that our parents truly understand what that program is, because it may be the choice for some of the parents and students who have truly enjoyed an alternative setting, but they don't necessarily want to go or fit the medical need for virtual academy. And what our independent study is a program that it's individualized learning for a lot of our students. Our students select independent study for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they are professional at something. They excel at another craft. So they could be dancers or artists or athletes that are doing those practices and exercises all day long and truly cannot attend school all day long. So they attend classes maybe once, maybe twice a week if they need more support. And then they are doing really asynchronous or independent work on the other days that are being monitored by their teachers. There are times when our students are concurrently enrolled in our community college. They're ready to move on beyond high school. And they're taking they can be dual enrolled or concurrently enrolled. So they're taking a day or 2 days at ACIS, and that allows them to take classes at a local community college on the other days. Or they're working. They're working on 2 or 3 days, and they're taking classes at ACIS. Or they want to accelerate. You can move a little faster because it's at your own pace that you can finish your classes there versus at the pace of everybody else at the comprehensive. Sometimes you just, maybe it's a medical situation where you just can't go through 7 classes a day at the independent study. So I've had students in the past, they've had all sorts of medical conditions where they can go through 2 or 3 periods of a regular schedule, and then they really need independent time to get through the rest of the classes, but they don't want to fall behind on graduation. So it's hey, I can go through a traditional schedule for 2 or 3 classes, and I'm going to supplement the rest of it with ACIS. And then there are students that I'm thinking of all sorts of examples. So it's really a student that just doesn't fit in a traditional school, a student that doesn't fit in a 1,500 student campus. That's a traditional campus with everything that comes with a high school due to whatever reasons. An independent study in a smaller setting, in a small group instruction, and then more independent time where it's catered more to an independent student fits. What students should select ACIS versus virtual academy? ACIS student needs to be able to manage their time and needs to understand that they are attending sometimes in person and are independent learning at other times with support of their teacher, but they need to be an independent learner. They're supported by their teachers, however, they need to be managing their time well. Virtual academy students is really anybody who cannot attend in-person school because of their medical needs or their medical needs of their household members. So there's really those two differences, but you may not be an independent learner, but you cannot go to in-person, full-blown, comprehensive, and that may be a virtual academy way. So if you still have some questions about that, I'm happy to talk to you. You can contact Mr. Drury, and he can explain a little more as well. Other questions is about, I'm sorry, I already answered the resubmitting, I apologize. Will the virtual academy have the same amount of synchronous time as in person? A lot of questions coming in around sort of, will it be amount of synchronous time? And yeah, I mean, yes, and each time is sort of relevant, it's all relevant, right? Because when we're in a classroom as a teacher, I'm hoping our teachers are not talking the entire time at the student. However, the student is with them and not at home alone. And that's the big difference. So if I'm teaching history and I'm in front of our students, there's a piece of it that's direct instruction or how it would translate in our distance learning at synchronous time. And then there's a piece of it that the students are working independently or in groups or in distance learning that would translate as independent asynchronous time or maybe in breakout groups. So in any learning model, there are times when students are together with a teacher or they're working independently. The big difference is that in virtual world, when you're working independently, you are alone and the teacher's not with you. So truly you're independent. While in person, you may be, in a classroom, you're working with a peer or you're working alone, but the teacher's in the classroom. But truly this amount of time you're getting of instruction should be the same. When I transfer away from virtual academy, do I return to my home school? And what if that's not a resident school? So for example, if I was an 8th grader and I was designated to go to Camp Lindo, but I transferred to Miramani. Miramani has now become your home school. And that's how it's coded in our student information system. So if I now as a Miramani student go to virtual academy, I will return back to Miramani, not to my original resident school that I never went to. So I hope that answers the question. Gotten a few questions around AP classes. In all honesty, we probably will not be able to offer many AP classes, if any. We know that Fuel Education has a couple of AP classes that could also be used for graduation requirement in junior, senior year. So we may look to offer a couple of those classes, but we will not be able to offer anywhere near the full slate of classes. But those will be finalized as we find out who are the students that are enrolled. I think those are the other, let's see, question on here is, will students be able to attend the graduation ceremony? Yes, if a student is a senior, we have said that they would graduate from their home school and be able to attend the graduation ceremony of their home school. And I think that brings me to the questions that I have received prior to the meeting. So I'm going to actually stop sharing for a second here and go and see with our panelists if there are questions that we've received that should be answered, or if there's anything else that I've missed maybe that has come in.
Aida, there was a question about an athlete who golfs, and would they be able to do the hybrid program through their school? And I think the first clarification is there is not a hybrid program. There's only the virtual academy, which is entirely remote, the full in-person at a comprehensive, and in-person at ACIS. A very serious golfer who wants to who would miss a lot of class because of tournaments or practice, ACIS could be a really good option. but our virtual academy is really designed if there is a health condition that puts the student or the household at unique risk while COVID is still in our community.
Yeah, I think that answers it exactly, right?
And I think that there's a question right now that just came in. Is there a class list of what AP classes Fuel Ed offers? And I think you addressed that to some degree. What could you name some of the more popular that might be offered?
Yeah, we're looking and John, you can help me out with John Drury. Believe that's Calculus AB, AP US History, and I want to say AP Environmental Science. Am I wrong? And is there maybe AP European?
There might be AP European. There's AP possibly Bio.
Okay. I mean, that's really what there is to offer. If we had like a really large number of students that went to Virtual Academy and many of them had requested the similar classes on there, we could potentially teach it with our own teachers, but that would be really hard to navigate. We'd really look at the course requests. So that's why we're looking at Fuel Ed for those offerings.
Basically, we've had two questions come in. I think that we've answered or in the process of answering around the comparison of rigor between classes offered either through the Virtual Academy, ACIS, and at a comprehensive high school. I'm wondering if you can address that piece of the rigor in the curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just like what we did this year, or in distance learning, we tried really hard to make sure that the standards that are covered in our distance learning are the standards that we cover in our regular classrooms. We want to make sure, and what we do that continuously independent study, that if the students can move back and forth. While we don't want movement continuously back and forth, a student that goes to independent study for a semester is able to move back successfully to comprehensive school site. And so it's really imperative that we keep the rigor of classes at the same level, or they're not able to succeed when they go back. So, so we do plan on keeping the rigor the same. That's why they're teaching. We have approved courses of study by the governing board. So the same standards and the approved courses of study are being taught. And that's what it is at the independent study as well. It's just a very different model of how it's being taught. A lot of the common assessments are being, meaning the same test, how we benchmark and assess students throughout the years are being used as well, so we can compare achievement data. Our ACIS students in the past have taken the same exact state exams as our students that are in Fuel Education, our students that are at the comprehensive school site, so we can examine that rigor. So we're constantly examining and looking at that. And we have a selection of teacher leaders next year, our teachers of special assignment, that is really their job, is to make sure that we are following the same curricular, implementing it to at a validity, and ensuring that our students are getting the same education. So as I mentioned at the start, we'll follow up some communications with the community around additional programming, sort of based on the questions that are coming out for the Virtual Academy. We'll also, it sounds like Mr. Drury and I will work together on following up some real robust communication around, hey, did you know about ACIS? Here's what it stands for those students that are like, well, I'm not medically fragile, or I'm not quite fitting into this, but I'm looking for a different option, so that we can really make sure that parents understand what our independent study is. And I'll inform the public of, here's the link to our recording, and also here's how you can further submit questions if you're not sure, so that you can make a decision that you feel good about with regards to moving forward for next year. And if there are no other questions, any other comments from our panel?
A question just came through for IEP and 504 students, question mark. And I think you answered that earlier.
Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah, 504 students and IEP students will be absolutely served, and they're served at ACIS, and they can be served in a virtual academy. By law, an IEP team must meet for any alternative placement for any student with an IEP. So an IEP team will meet, they'll look at what are the offerings and is this the best placement? And of course, parent and student is part of that IEP team to provide that input. And really it's all in the spirit of making sure that the student is successful. So that's really the only thing that has to happen. And should the IEP team feel like that's the appropriate placement, then the student would be allowed to go through. And then all services will be provided. Okay, well, thank you so much for all of you who have attended. Thank you to Mr. Brar, Mr. Drury, Dr. Nickerson, appreciate it. Thank you, and a lot more information will be coming out, and looking forward to any questions that you might have. Yes?
There's a question
Okay.
about physical education.
Yes, we'll probably have to, we would have to do it as, we'd have to do what we've done this year, which is the independent PE of some sorts, or it will have to be postponed until they can participate. So we'll have to look at who the student is and maybe look at it, how that would look like. Because we actually have online PE, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Appreciate you being here.